If I had a gun to my head, I would have to say that Alejandro is easily the most irredeemable character in all of BCB, period. I know a lot of people make jokes about Mike or Lucy being irredeemable, but Alejandro has committed several horrible, heinous crimes over the course of his life. This dude just can't stay away from it. It's like a moth to flame. He just can't help himself but commit crimes. And I think that it is high time that he starts paying for them. So today, we are going to go through the comic, look at everything Alejandro has done, and figure out exactly what his punishment is going to be after all of this evidence has been put in front of a judge. This is What If Alejandro Was Charged for His Crimes?
You gonna do? Yeah. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
For those outside of the US, we have two tiers of law: misdemeanor and felony. Misdemeanor is for minor offenses like speeding or petty theft, while felonies are reserved for more malicious crimes like murder. It also depends on the context of the crimes, and something like assault and battery can be a misdemeanor or a felony depending on the severity of the attack. Laws also depend on the state in some cases, so to keep things as accurate as possible, I will be using New Jersey law. And also, just for the fun of it, we'll be giving Alejandro max sentencing for each crime. I don't think anybody's going to object to that. One of the first things we see Alejandro do is knowingly offer alcoholic consumables to a minor. The law states that if this is a first-time offense, the judge is encouraged to not give jail time, but this also depends on the context of if other crimes were committed by said person at the time. And as we'll see, Alejandro is not done breaking the law yet. However, just on this one thing alone, Alejandro could face up to 6 months in jail, probation, and a $1,000 fine. The next we see him do is extort the gang for money. This can lead him to a 10-year prison sentence and a maximum fine of $100,000. A $100,000 fine over $200, yeah, I'm sure that's worth it. He then assaults 3 minors back to back, with Lucy coming in 4th later, so that's 4 separate charges of aggravated assault, which can lead to a maximum of 10 years in prison for each charge and $150,000 in fines for each. That's 40 years in prison and $600,000 just for the alleyway assault alone. He then sexually assaults Lucy, who, as a minor, would lead Alejandro to another 20 years in prison and a fine of up to $150,000. He would also have to register as a sex offender. Now, all of these things would be presented to a judge and jury at once, and realistically he would be charged as such. I don't have access to a judge to ask what they would do in this situation, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he would probably get life in prison, given the severity and malicious nature of these events. And if not life in prison, several decades. And this isn't even the end of it. During Moving On, we see more of Alejandro's crimes. Namely, he is using Augustus, a minor, to aid in him committing a crime. We'll section this out as 2 different crimes. The first is stalking, which could lead him to 18 months in prison and a $10,000 fine. The second is using a minor to commit a crime, which will land him another 20 years in prison. He does consistently use Augustus as a crime proxy, but we don't know how many times that is, so we'll just leave it at 20 years in prison for this. So to recap this section: 1. Stalking. 2. Using a minor to commit a crime. We finally see more of Alejandro in Trap, where he starts it by assaulting Augustus, which will result in another 10 years in prison and another $150,000 fine. During Augustus's flashback, Toby mentions that him and Alejandro had gotten kicked out of the corner store quite some time ago. We'll assume he stole less than $200 before getting caught, so he'll see another 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. He then hits Toby, which is another cool 6 months in prison and a $1,000 fine. It also seems that Alejandro abuses Melanie, felony on a regular basis, so we'll throw in domestic abuse, which can be up to 20 years in prison. He finally assaults her badly enough to land her in a hospital, which is another 10 years in prison and a $150,000 fine. Recapping this section, several counts of assault, domestic abuse, and though I did not list it here, using a minor to commit crimes. And of course, shoplifting. This is not a good look. I don't think any number of hours of community service is going to save him from this one. So, all of these crimes together, Alejandro is going to spend 18 months in jail, 131 years and 6 months in prison, a $1,162,000 fine, and will be on the sex offender registry. Once more, this is if it was all separated. Given the severity of Alejandro's behavior, and repeated behavior at that, which is a huge thing when it comes to the law, he would most definitely be spending life in prison, and most likely a maximum security prison at that. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this is too harsh of a punishment for Alejandro? Do you think it's not harsh enough? Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you